About Bob Dylan, 80.
Oh, is he 80 today?
I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but they've been playing a lot of Bob Dylan on the radio.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to hear his songs, and that he's 80. I don't know what just happened to my voice.
Your voice, you start sounding like Dylan. That's interesting. That's called impressionistics, which when you do an impression of someone, you actually turn into them. So anyway, hi, I'm Chris Rios. I was just talking about Bob Dylan and like a Rolling Stone. No, Bob, I did him on SNL once. Hey, the old Dylan in the, what was it? Lay, lay, lay. You know, where he changed his voice. Lay across my big best bread. The only time he sang with a different voice. But Bob and I, if you have a minute, I had a masseuse, spiritual masseuse in Malibu in the 90s that my wife introduced me to. She would massage you with your clothes on. I go, it'd be better if I was just in my underwear. No, clothes on. So she said she also would massage Dylan, who lived in the neighborhood. And she said, Dylan, in regards to his fame, said, I've never really caught up with it.
Wow.
You know? And she just had no idea what he meant. So I said, well, it means that he just can't fathom that he's Bob Dylan. He just thinks of Robert Dylan, who, you know, got his tricycle stolen.
Right.
She said, oh,
Yeah.
maybe you should take your shirt off. Let's get that oil out. Anyway, no, Bob Dylan is, I like his new stuff. He's too cool for
Traveling
school.
Wilburys? Is that what? Yeah. The one he did with Roy Orbison and
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
George
yeah, the
Harrison.
the train riding raspberries. What was it called? What was it?
Traveling Wilburys.
Jumping
Wilburys?
trains with the
With the old folk.
Oh, Ray Orbison, who went to the stars, God rest his soul.
Roy.
I always figured if you'd flipped his face with Elvis. So Elvis looks like Ray Orbison.
Roy.
Him too. That was the brother, the good one. Roy Orbison looked like Elvis because his voice was from God,
Well,
you know.
and that black dye they both shared.
I know, yeah. Why would anyone color their hair?
I don't know.
It doesn't happen, hair person. Now, Chris is going to give me a trim today, but like any good hair person, she can get a little chatty. And when hair cutters get chatty, they get cutty. So if you don't watch a hair cutter person, they can tell a story and go off. And next thing you know, you're Yul Brynner, which is a reference to an intensely bald movie star from 1957.
Which
Thank you.
My mother was in that original
Oh.
Broadway show. King
So
and I.
this is again like Kismet.
Full
Chris
circle.
Rios' mother was a sort of Broadway dancing, singing
actress,
and she was in The King and I with Yul Brynner.
the original one.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is called Full Circle Podcast. Hi, welcome to Karma, where every subject dovetails into itself. Okay, we're gonna have Frank Cronin on today. Francis Cronin from Dublin.
Can we put some Irish music on?
Oh yeah, he really loves that. Yep, he's Irish, all right. He's drunk and he loves a fiddle. Anyway.
Pick him up in a wheelbarrow instead of an Uber. Yeah. Oh, he's Irish. Arr!
What you doing, Dana Carvey?
Johnny Victim. I was trying to lose 15 pounds, got a little heavy during COVID, but my friends started eating ice cream, my roommates, every night, so I got fucked, man. I couldn't lose a pound. Oh, I'm so sorry, Johnny Victim. How's it doing on the job front? Yeah, I had an audition for a job. My car was in the shop. I asked my friends if they'd give me a ride, and they said for sure, and then they bailed out right before, so I missed the interview, so I got fucked. God, I'm so sorry, Johnny Victim. Yeah, I got screwed. Anyway, it doesn't matter, you know. Hey, who's your roommate? He's a clueless, opinionated guy. Clueless, opinionated guy, how are you? There should never be poor people. What should we do? Give everyone $1 million? Well, how would that work? I don't know. Why do you have an opinion about that? I don't know. He's clueless, opinionated guy. Sorry. I'm working these out right now for people who are listening. This is not smoothed out stuff. This is a pickup thing I want to do that I didn't get. Dana. Oh, shit. Hold on a sec. Dana. This is Barack Obama. What's going on? Where's the housewife? You know, the one that laughs a lot. She was on a couple weeks ago. We had David Spade last week. Yeah, I know. Michelle liked it. Anyway, Dana, Michelle, no, I'm not on this week. Nope, I don't want to play badminton. I don't care. I don't know where the shuttlecocks are. Michelle, I don't know where the shuttlecocks are. Did you look in the garage? You can't find a shuttlecock. I don't know why they call them shuttlecocks, but they're birdies, whatever. Badminton's fun, but I'm just not in the mood. Michelle, I don't want any oatmeal with oatmeal milk, okay? That's not what I want. I'll have 2% on the oatmeal. I don't want oatmeal milk on my oatmeal. It's too much oatmeal in my life already. Michelle, I found a shuttlecock. I'll be there in a minute. That was, shut up, Brian. They're just going through stuff. Dana had to shorten his mic. That's why you heard that sound.
What you doing, Dana Carvey?
Fauci now says he knows, he's thinking that maybe it wasn't the Wuhan lab.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? He did yesterday. He said, I on the podcast last week, I talked about Fauci going to the Wuhan lab.
Right.
Evidently, he heard it, but now it's everywhere. I think that maybe it did come from Wuhan. We need a complete investigation. How do you know? 2 people got really sick there and had to go to a hospital a few weeks before it came out to the rest of the world. I sat on that for a year, and now I go, wait a minute. We got to talk to them. First, I believe them. They're a communist regime. They're not known for truth-telling. What? I'm a clueless, opinionated guy. I'm paid to have an opinion, even if I don't have information. I'm Tony Fauci, and remember, from the bottom of my Faucis, which are all leather and fit nicely, go fuck yourself.
What you doing, Dana Carvey?
Oh, anyway, my guest today is Frank Cronin,
Yay.
who I believe was our guest on maybe the 6th episode.
Yep.
Something like that. And it was called Running for My Life on a Daily Basis.
Yeah.
So to kind of reintroduce Francis, he's a friend of the family. He's my wife's nephew. He's born and raised in Dublin. Frank Cronin. And he had a very, very, for us Americans, an extremely interesting childhood that was very, very humble in Ireland. His dad, everyone worked for Guinness. Anything else we want to mention about your Irish upbringing?
I was pretty standard, you know, a lot of rain. What a lot of people in California would call hardship, but in reality, everyone was doing fine. It was a loving household. There wasn't a lot of money in the 80s, but
and how
pretty
was
good.
it again? So that you have 2. There were 3 kids and
Yeah.
your mom and dad, and it probably was 1,000 square feet or 800 square feet.
it was a small house, but we didn't know any better because everyone in the neighborhood had a small house, and
Right.
I had friends who were having a much. It was I didn't know any better. I'm only learning when I came to California that that it was a small house. You know.
Interesting. So you didn't realize you were poor until you left Ireland, and then all the Americans say, "Yeah, you didn't got nothing over there. You didn't even live in places like that. America, we got big houses, big cars, big food. We're big people. You're like little Irish people. You drunk?"
Well,
What
poor,
about
poor
yeah.
is kind of relative because everyone had
Yeah.
similar amounts of money, so it hadn't even crossed my mind that there were other levels of income and other levels of thinking. And then as you travel, you realize, I was what is it, middle working class, and now I'm
Mm-hmm.
around in LA where there's people, oil barons and
Movie
billionaires.
stars.
I have a friend who's a billionaire now. Like, how does that even happen?
I think obviously real poverty where you're starving and stuff like that, and there's no fresh water is a whole different story. But yeah, we were very humble. There were 7 of us and maybe 1,500 square feet. And the TV we had, when it was black and white and blurry and shaken, we didn't know. We just thought we'd like to look at we weren't very bright, but we would just look at the pictures,
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And we were happy. There was TV. We didn't know that there was 100 channels we didn't have.
Right.
We didn't know that some people had, very, very relaxing vacations on cruise liners, whereas we were camping. So it just felt normal. Everyone around us was happy. There
Yeah.
was food in the fridge. There was a lot of love in the house. And there was plenty of things to toughen you up when you went outside,
Yeah.
That's the rain, the fists.
Well,
the whole thing.
freedom too. I mean, you were post helicopter parenting, so you were just free to run wild.
Yeah, my parents were very, very kind. So we would leave in the morning and then just try and be back by 10 now. And then it would be 8 of us or 10 of us on a bus driving to meet some women across the far side of town. We'd knock on the door, we'd get past the father, and then we'd be out with the girls for the day, and then we'd go out to a disco that night. If we were lucky, we'd rent a hostel. And we, it was just wildness. Wild young people marauding and having good fun. And
That's it, like 13, 14?
14 to 16. So just large groups of humans with no plans marauding around the country. That's pretty much it, but treating everyone pretty much respectfully, but as is normal in Ireland. If it's we don't have weapons there, so there is usually most teenagers have to have 1 or 2 fights just to keep that at bay.
But would people have knives then? Would teenagers carry knives, like a switchblade in your boots?
Yeah, well, most of my friends thought it was fun to have a what do you call it? A little knife, but it wasn't like a threatening thing. You didn't have it on display. It was like, oh, this will be fun. We can cut down a tree, or we can. There was no viciousness to it. Yeah.
Right.
Now, would I carry that into town on a Saturday night? No way. No,
Right.
that's for psychopaths. But like to have a knife as a teenage boy was a rite of passage. Actually, Aunt Anne, our mutual cousin, gave me my first knife. And when she was in her 60s, so that's interesting.
So our mutual cousin, Anne?
Yeah.
Not Anne Swagerman.
Anne. Anne Swagerman.
Oh.
My grandma?
Your grandmother
Grandma.
gave me my first pocket knife. And she's Irish, born and raised. But
she's your aunt.
Yeah.
And Dex's grandmother.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anne Swagerman.
Yeah.
And she brought you a knife because she's a very, very devout Catholic person, and yet she brought you a weapon you could kill with randomly when you were a young man.
Yeah, but at no point was Anne ever thinking that this knife would be used for anything but buttering and whittling. Nor was it. So it just stayed in my pocket. It's probably at home somewhere. But like, it's just perception, right? There was food in the fridge. People were happy. Everyone was living a relatively similar existence. And people were generally respectful. And if there was friction, it was dealt with, and then a handshake, and then onward.
You know what? I think that it's when society is homogenized like that, because we had our version of that. Middle class people in tract homes in Northern California in the 50s, 60s, 70s, homes really cheap. And so everyone was at around the same level.
Yeah.
If someone had a new car, no one had a pool.
Yeah.
But I remember one time a kid came over and said, yeah, he was referring to another family. I'm like in 5th grade. He goes, they're poor. He's referring to some other family. And I go, poor? He goes, yeah, kind of like you. And that was the first time anyone ever told me I was poor.
Oh my God.
And I go, you want to see our freezer full of baked day-old Hostess cupcakes, bitch?
Oh, yeah.
And it was a man. It was a person, so don't write me any letters. It's a powerful word. But I do think if it's an homogenized society, we pay a price, especially now with all the social media, because I still think that everyone is living not just a rich life, but a life of imagination and magic.
Oh, yeah.
They're just in bikinis and they're rip fit on yachts
Amazing
off the coast of
vacations.
Sardinia.
Yeah.
And just my thoughts and my feelings, and I own. And so I think it breeds a lot of unhappiness.
Yeah, definitely comparative living is not good. And that seems to be what social media is, which is basically, look at me. I'm doing better than you. You can have this too. Meanwhile, you
can have this too.
You can have this too, but just keep, pay attention.
Yeah.
But at no point do you need anything. Like if you have food, good friends, and a reasonable income and shelter, I that's what I was brought up to understand. And so when I came to California and I started meeting people with, let's just say, kind of a different stratosphere of income, I didn't realize that they looked at me as poor because I thought I was literally doing great. So
well, one thing is to look at
and
you.
I still think I am, which is weird.
Well,
but
to
I know
look at
I'm-
you is free.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a certain person who does stuff with a lot of wealthy people as a manager and business manager, and he says a lot of them, their lives are so complex. There is a price to be paid for,
Oh, yeah.
the G5 is not working. We're going to have to take a hawker to Vegas.
Yeah.
Fuck you. I'm not doing that. But you're like, it's really complicated. But I've always said, you occupy a house, but you live just like within my life doesn't extend beyond my foot or my hand.
Yeah.
We smoked a little weed before the show.
Yeah, well,
I'll be honest. It was just an edible. I bought it. Spade gave it to me. I bit the ear. So anyway, so you grew up very humble, and
so I'm told, but I didn't know that. Yeah.
But and you had fist fights, and that's on chapter 6. But what happened? We kind of ran out of time, if there's such a thing on a podcast. And so you grow up. You're 18, and just describe again how you. Well, you told that story. It was so funny about how you decided to go in the army instead of college, which you went to later.
Yeah.
You decided to go into the Irish military. What branch was it?
It was initially the fire service, the fire crew, so putting out aviation fires.
Wow.
And then
Really? Oh, wow.
yeah, so we only had one, so it was a fairly relaxed time. But a good group of lads with training all the time. So you're very fit, and you figure out how to work as a team, and you deal with serious personalities. Like in the army, you're dealing with a lot of people who could buy and sell you with their wit. Like they're very one of the misconceptions about the military is that it's all these kind of Neanderthals. But when I was in the military, I tell you, these guys could buy and sell most people. They just have a different perspective on life. It's almost like they join the army to get more resistance, and they need a certain amount of friction or being told what to do so they can rebel against it. It's almost like they.
Aren't Irish people sort of generally kind of witty, or they like to have fun with the English language, and they don't suffer fools?
Yeah, well,
they do friendly little put-downs.
Yeah, I think the Scottish are the only people who are quicker.
Well, I'm Irish-Scottish.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they can compliment you and insult you at the same time. It's interesting. There's a lot of time spent, let's say, hanging out in groups or around a table having pints. It's cultural.
It's very
norm.
verbal.
Yeah, talking, and we call it slagging and making fun of each other, and it makes you verbally dexterous, I guess, at times. But then I meet people like you, and I go, oh, there's other levels of verbal dexterity.
I don't know. I don't think it's a lot of practice. I think a lot of hell gigs.
Yeah.
The only time my wife kind of does the furniture, and I fix things and carry heavy stuff. We have our male-female roles. Anyway, I did find 2 chairs once in a furniture store, little low-set chairs, like a foot off the ground, peg wood, looked very old. Yeah. And I said, oh, wow, what are those? There were 2 of them. And they said, those are Irish humble chairs from like 1890. So I have them, and I love them. Yes, they're humble. And the story is that if you come to a party and you feel like you have too big of an ego, they would, why don't you take a seat in the humble chair? And they were humble, and you would sit really low in the chair. They're actually quite comfortable. With smooth wood.
Can we bring those back?
I'll take a picture of it. They're great. They're great. Humble chairs.
No, you should create a line of humble, make them an in thing now. I think a lot of homes need some humble chairs.
I like that. Yeah, I would just give them to the Kardashians for free. Yeah. But their bottoms wouldn't fit on the seat. They'd have to have 2 chairs for each.
2 humble chairs.
Each Kardashian. But yeah, I thought that was very interesting thing about the culture of the Irish.
Yeah, it's like I guess you get we're the most humble people in the world. No, it's a little it's interesting because when you meet people who aren't operating with the same software or being programmed in the same way Irish people are programmed, let's say. Yeah. It can be like, oh, how do I deal with this much self-confidence? How do I navigate this much self-confidence?
You got to play it down.
Yeah, well, or is this person aware, that they're marching towards the end of their life? Like, just like, and are they aware that there are people having a much harder time on the planet? So I'm just like, when they're marching with confidence, and I think it's the Catholic Church and the constant, hey, your ancestors had a bad time. Mm-hmm. So by the time you get to 18, you think you feel and you're programmed to have an underdog's mentality. Right. And you're also told en masse that you're kind of the fighting Irish. Mm-hmm. So you have this underdog gladiatorial. If you're a young man in Ireland and you're 16 or 17, you're kind of patriotic in general, unless you're really enlightened and you've watched a lot of YouTube videos. So you're kind of patriotic, you feel like an underdog, and your go-to move appears to be work really hard, stay humble, and maybe emigrate because that's in your heritage. That's like almost like a pattern
Interesting.
that a lot of Irish people follow.
Well, it's kind of interesting to me if you take Conor McGregor
Yeah.
and the way he can sell a fight with a gigantic ego. Of course, he's a performer and a
Yeah.
businessman. And then you think of U2
Yeah.
and Bono, his confidence. So those are two Irish superstars. Obviously, they're unique, but they're so globally known as being hyper confident.
Yeah, I've never seen. I mean, I think that's probably why Conor McGregor was so disruptive. And like, he came from a place called Crumlin, which is about a mile from where my family home is.
Oh, yeah?
And in the 80s, it was probably when he was growing up, it's a pretty tough spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just I've never seen anything like Conor McGregor emerge apart from Bono from Ireland.
Right.
So when you see that, the underdog owning
Mm-hmm.
his capacity to take over the world, like that's an amazing narrative.
Yeah.
And I'm a bad guy, and I'm making all the money, and I'll knock you out if you disagree. Like, how do you even compete with that narrative? So
I'll fight you. I'll
he's
entertain you.
Yeah, plus 35 million Americans identifying as Irish. Like I'm really proud of it.
Yeah.
So he
Me
was
too.
just naturally poised to be. He had that mentality that I think a lot of Irish people wish
Mm-hmm.
that they had the courage to step into.
Yeah.
But that's obviously a very personal journey. A lot of people just want to stay humble and work hard in Ireland. And
That's a horrible thing.
is it?
What you doing, Dana Carvey?
But Frank was always physical, willing. If you say, we're going to hike 30 miles today, top of a mountain, he'd say, count me in. I mean, you were definitely always, or you would skydive, or you would whitewater raft, or
Yeah.
you always had that mentality, which probably lent you to the army and then leads you to Africa. But speak to that about yourself first. You're always evac though.
I could be, just maybe a lack of self-awareness or a lack of an understanding of mortality, or it could be ADHD, or it could literally be just like I get life I either really don't understand life or I really get it, which is basically it's one short run around. I'm gonna go for it. At some point you may as well go. No holds barred. Take a chance.
You don't give up. I mean, it's like, weren't you often sort of helicoptered off mountains and stuff from exhaustion? Or something?
I don't. It may be stupidity, but I do.
Well, it's strength.
Yeah, and it's what are you? You're the product of the people you hang around with. So my parents on the weekends would bring us up the mountains from about 5 years old, and we'd walk up the mountains, and we'd get cold, and then we'd have a bar of chocolate at the top and a sandwich, and that was our Sunday. But it would be 5 miles that maybe other kids weren't doing. So I was very used to being in the mountains. And then it's like, hey, we're going on holidays. Where are we going? Well, we're not going anywhere but camping because the finances necessitated that we go camping.
Right.
So we're
Again in the mountains.
Now we're living outdoors, kind of semi-outdoors, pissing in the bushes, and
it's 32 degrees Fahrenheit with a 40-mile-an-hour gale force wind, and you guys are in the swimming hole with the little Irish trunks on.
And again, this is not bravery or courage; it's just the reality. What do? You go swimming. Where do you swim? You jump off the pier into ice cold water, and we don't think about it. That's what you do. It's like the Swedish getting into a hot tub after getting into the ice. It's like we think it's amazing, but in reality, it's literally just acculturation.
Well, let's face it, the Swedes, which I'm part Swede,
you're like a hybrid.
I'm Swedish, I think. Swedish, Norwegian, Scottish, and Irish.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
No, dude. Well, look at you. You walk on stage, take your life in your hands. Public humiliation, probably the biggest fear in the world.
Yeah.
Step out in front of 2,000 people, take a chance every night, and try and get a paycheck. Now, if you don't think you have the same problem as me and Dex, dude, we're all in trouble, bro.
I would say that it's the price of consciousness. Like, say you're. That's why we could never stop looking at a dog, because a dog doesn't know it's got a due date, it's gonna die. It's just like, what is that? So if a dog was here right now, all of us would just stare at the dog happily, or a baby. But then you get into this thing, there's a due date and stuff. And so I think that being experiential gets you out of that. One of those ways of doing it is doing extreme physical stuff, which I ran a marathon in a heat wave. When I was 17, didn't take any water because I didn't want to get a side ache.
Yeah.
And it was like 85 degrees. The first 10 miles was up 2,000 feet.
Yeah.
But I knew I wouldn't quit. But I said to myself, don't ever do this again.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Amazing. Yeah. Well,
And I did.
If you are paying attention, right, and life graces you with a few near-death experiences, right, and you come through them, or you know, at some point, you kind of look at the world like, oh, I need to do hard stuff so that other people, when they encounter this, realize that there's people pushing forward. It's not like you're trying to be a good example for the world, but you may as well be, because the only other option is to be like Debbie Downer sitting on the couch, just all upset all the time. So yeah.
Whoops, sorry. This is from Fauci. Jesus. I'll take it later.
Yeah. But yeah.
First order, shut up, Brian. He's just started doing this. It's only episode 13. He doesn't know to turn things off. Shut up. But I think it silences that voice in the back here, because thinking is a dangerous thing. So you want to be just experiential in the moment. I mean, physicality, music.
Yeah.
With Chris, it's a lot of marijuana. And kidding. No, she's a happy gummy bear twice a month.
Well, when you're out of breath, all the best times in life are when you're kind of out of breath, like you can barely go.
I got to unpack that. Really out of breath?
Yeah.
What could that be?
No, well, like you're up a mountain, right?
No, I totally
Feel the-
agree, and I do it playing the guitar or the piano,
Yeah.
or you know, exercising and doing podcasting.
Yeah, and it's almost like the absence of thinking. So
Yeah.
sometimes I would try and get away from thinking so much that I would, I'd do adventure race. And one time that ended up in being airlifted by my friends in the Air Corps, which was obviously a waste of taxpayers' money. But I did get to experience 30 minutes from death.
So you're on
from
a mountain,
hypothermia,
you
so-
passed out, and you see your friends from high school coming in a chopper coming down.
Yeah, friends from the Air Corps.
And didn't they kind of tease you that you just got so dehydrated you couldn't move or something?
They did a little bit, but they're literally saving lives that deserve to be saved on a
Right.
daily basis. So when they picked up me, they treated me with respect. But
Yeah.
afterwards, I got ridiculed. And then, but yeah,
You should have I put them in the humble chairs. If they come to America, I know where that guy's gonna sit.
What you doing, Dana Carvey?
But then you get assigned to go to Liberia in Africa, and you're sort of part of the UN.
yeah. So
Yeah.
joined the army. They trained.
What year was this about?
This 2005.
Okay.
So I joined the army about 2000. Do the basic training, meet all the lads, build a massive rapport. Then you get sent to a unit. Did the fire thing. We had one helicopter crash and a lot of training it up against these huge big fires in England. That was great. They taught me a bit of Spanish, and I did a sailing course as well. in
Now,
the
when
army.
you say, hold on, we had a helicopter crash. What do you mean?
The Irish
The
Air
unit.
Corps
Okay.
had a helicopter crash. I happened to be on duty, and we got there just in time. Nobody died. It was a great success.
You ran or drove to the site of the crash and did all that stuff.
Yeah, along with about 10 other lads
Yeah.
from the Irish Fire Corps.
Okay.
And then they put us, after that, then, if you're doing that kind of stuff, your desire to be involved in high octane events continues. So I applied for the Coast Guard, which, pulling yourself up and out of, or pulling people out of the sea. Got that, and then they cancelled it. So I was a little devastated. So I applied to go overseas. You asked to join, the United Nations. They basically rent out Irish soldiers, and then they send us off into the jungle. You get what's called danger money in the army. It's not officially called.
Well,
danger money.
I just stopped for a second. I'm just because I've seen so many movies with the helicopters out over the North Atlantic, and it's just get it down, put your thumb in it. I mean, who would ever want that? Get in the thumb. Come on, Johnny.
What you doing, Dana Carvey?
So then you get in the UN, and when do you come to Africa?
Yeah, the United Nations, 2005. There was a.
So you're in your early 20s.
Yeah, early 20s, probably 25. I can't
Okay.
do the maths that quick.
Yeah.
But me and about, I think, 600 Irish soldiers and about 600 Swedish soldiers formed the Irish-Swedish Battalion and the Quick Reaction Force.
I'm part Swedish.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. I don't know if I made that
I thought
clear.
I recognized you. Were you in the jungle in 2005?
No, go ahead. So you're in this contingency of Swedes and Irish soldiers.
Swedes and Irish soldiers, and the Irish have a good history of getting on well abroad, because I think it's a general way of being.
Yeah.
And so wherever we went in Liberia, it was like Irish. It was awesome. So we felt like we were making a difference. We were protecting aid agencies, nuns, food. So it was really palpable. You could see people were happy to see us. So it felt like exactly why I joined what I thought was a benevolent organization, the UN. It may still be, I don't know.
So you did you have the blue UN helmet?
I had the blue hat.
You had the blue UN
Yeah,
helmet.
so-
Do
yeah,
you still
so-
have it?
I don't have it. No, they take everything back from you.
Did you at this point have a weapon?
Yeah.
And what was it?
Yeah, a Steyr AUG 5.56 millimeter. So it shoots about 30
Was it a
rounds in
handgun or
in
a
second.
rifle?
No, that's a rifle.
Yeah, a rifle.
Yeah, and depending on if you wanted a handgun, you could probably carry one too, and then you got 120 rounds on your chest, and then you're going through the jungle with. Honestly, I think I was so naive that I hadn't even factored in that it was really dangerous. I was just with my friends.
You're
in
young
the
and
jungle.
just I get that. You take more chances when you're young.
Yeah, and then it gets a bit real. You know, I was excited, so like most young soldiers, like this isn't Frank Cronin, but most young soldiers, can I go on patrol? Can I go on patrol? Like it sounds crazy. Would you like to put yourself in excess danger? Yeah, go in excess danger. So we would ask to be on patrols. We'd go out. We'd be on things called notice to move, and a notice to move is basically a military way of saying you have to be ready to go, locked and loaded in either 24 hours, 6 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes. And
So when you go on patrol, is it like a movie where you're all
Yeah.
walking along a trail with jungle and then everyone has to get down and they signal you and everyone goes down on their haunches? Or were you in jeeps or?
no, we're in armored personnel carriers, which
Okay.
have .5 weapons on top, which could level a building. Each one of those could level a building, then send in 8 lads and destroy everything in it in about 30 seconds.
It just seems like a
pretty
movie.
intense.
It sounds incredible.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah,
Down, soldiers!
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we go on these epic long patrols into the jungle, red earthen roads, massive, like 20-foot deep potholes. And every now and then a truck might break down. We'd stop. We'd go into all-around cover, which is basically covering off arcs to make sure we don't get attacked. One time we're all in, one of the trucks breaks down. We're in all-around cover. And there's a rustle in the bush right beside me. And this man, I swear to God, his eyes made him look like he was like 300 million years old, came out and tried to sell me a fish in the middle of nowhere. In the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
So basically, he'd never seen anything like me. I'd never seen a human with this much depth in his eyes. Like the people that we met out there were so connected to something that we're not connected to here.
Wow.
I'll never forget.
Can't imagine not.
Yeah, and at that time in Liberia, they had just had a gun buyback program, so there wasn't too many weapons. I didn't get in a firefight, which is a completely different level of soldiering. But there was definitely tension. We'd sleep in the tents at night with our weapons. Sometimes I'd be out at night with night vision with my friends, doing keeping an eye on things. So it was probably good that I wasn't that smart, like I hadn't figured out mortality at that point in my life. So really, it was like an adventure. It was fun. And just a lot of male camaraderie. Like,
Oh, well, we don't have to go into that. I mean, whatever. You were a long way from home, sailor.
and Larium as well. We were on this drug called Larium for malaria, which we'd pop on a Wednesday, and by Wednesday night, everyone would be hallucinating, and then we'd go out on patrol with weapons. So it was a really safe environment. And I believe it's a huge, massive court
You
case.
would hallucinate on malaria drugs and then go on patrol. Wow. One thing you told me
Hello, Irish
once
government.
about this was that there was the culture of the machete was in Liberia. So everybody, or at least all the young men, everyone was carrying like basically a sword in their hand, right? Or did they holster them or just walk around with a sword?
Yeah, and that teaches you a lot about perception. So, as an Irishman growing up, if I see someone with a machete, I'm scared. But if you go to, say, Guatemala, El Salvador, or Africa, where it's generally a farming culture.
Yeah, I was going to say my stepdad used to have one in Hawaii when you
Yeah.
cut down sugarcane.
Yeah, it's
like that.
it's just
Just happen to have a machete in
good.
your car.
What you doing, Dana Carvey?
Basically, Liberia and a lot of countries that are economically depressed, or third world countries, or they're living day to day from agriculture. A lot of people carry machetes. So you'd be walking down the street and you just see a group of teenagers walking probably from work and carrying machetes. So just to acclimatize to that,
Yeah.
we would always have weapons, so there was no there was no major fear about what would happen. But
Mm-hmm.
it was interesting. One time we were dropping off food, and there was a load of kids. Couldn't have been in high school yet, even. But they were all carrying machetes. We dropped off the food, and then it was amazing and sad at the same time because they would fight. They would slap each other with the side of the machete.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how close they would get to fighting with a machete. But the older boys would slap the kids with the side of the machete, take the better food, and and so it was very tense. There was definitely a lot of tension, but a beautiful people in general.
It was a Darwinian proposition because the kids who didn't learn to slap on the side and slap with the sharp part, they all disappeared.
Well, they definitely did. And
Yeah.
there was a lot of child soldiers in Liberia.
Only the ones who learned to slap with the side lived to be
Yeah.
of school age.
Yeah.
What you doing, Dana Carvey?
Yeah, it was pretty wild. If you Google Liberia, West Africa, and there's unfortunately a lot of child soldiers. So we would meet a lot of ex-militia, and they couldn't have been more than 15, 16. And they'd either be missing an arm or they would have killed a lot.
Well, forget what I just said.
Well, they would have, a lot of them had killed a lot of people and done a lot of things
God.
with their
This
family.
is Sad Saki podcast.
What you doing, Dana Carvey? We got so many edit points, man. But Frank's,
People are
your
like
stories
on the
are
side
so
of the road
great.
crying now.
I think I'm
No.
listening to your podcast.
No.
No, but basically, it's just one. I guess what I'm saying is, once you see the darker side of life,
Right.
you start. It kind of uprights you in a way and puts you on a path towards, I better improve myself because this is how dark the world can get.
All right.
So that basically,
Right.
Liberia set me on a course to mortality is real and there's a real dark side to
Right.
humanity that can.
So-
So now I'm doing comedy in LA, which is darker.
Well, before that, you kind of go, wow, what should I do? I was just in Liberia. What do I do now? I guess I'll open an Irish pub in Guadalajara next. And that's what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had a bit of extra money. As I was saying, if you join the Irish Army and then work for the UN, they give you double pay, danger money. So I had what I thought was a lot of money. I had like 40,000
a lot of
euros
money.
for what was
Yeah.
for me. And my friend had a bit of money. He married a Mexican girl. So the only logical thing to do if you want to earn a good income is to be your own boss down there.
Right.
So we opened a bar for like 40,000. That went well. We opened another one. And then we had a hostel, and my friend had a barber's. So we were like entrepreneurs for a period of time, like 8 years in Mexico.
8 years in Mexico.
Yeah.
And it became kind of a big hit.
We
The
got
Temple Bar, right, for a while?
Well, yeah, Irish people really do know how to set up an atmosphere in a pub. So
Yeah.
we knew how to have a good time, and it was like the cool. I think honestly, Temple Bar we called it after the place in Dublin. It was probably like the hottest pub in Guadalajara. Few million people. So it was pretty cool, and that was my first experience of having employees that were not military. So I had to kind of reacclimatize
Right.
how to speak to people and be kind of chill and lower expectations.
And did you have any sense of danger in Guadalajara? You were already in Liberia, so it seemed like nothing.
See, that's the problem. It's a slippery slope because the closer you get to danger, the bigger your tolerance for adversity and pain are, I think. So, yeah, we had I had a lot of run-ins down there with that. One of my friends was, how dark do we want to go?
Well, just say you had a lot of run-ins.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a kid's show.
Hey, a lot of run-ins down there. There was no action was required, but at one point,
Yes, I think, someone was beat up.
One of my friends, Dex actually knows him, one of the biggest drug dealers in Mexico who's now dead.
Oh, gosh.
We're walking into the back of his building. My friend owned a magazine down there. And I said I would go with him to the building to get him paid. So we're at the back of the building because there's a big line out the front. It's a nightclub. And we're at the back of the building, and me being Irish go, hey, sure, we'll just hop over the wall and we'll go in and he'll be glad to see us, right?
And why did your friend want to get paid from the drug dealer?
Because he had advertised his nightclub
in his magazine. Got it.
And it
Okay.
was a friendly, hey, we'll
Yeah.
drop by, see can we get paid? No aggression, no toughness. You don't mess with these guys.
Right.
So we're at the back gate, and as we're climbing over the wall, a whole host of SUVs pull up. Some of the biggest people I've ever seen get out, and a guy pulls out a gun and is about to execute my friend. When all of a sudden, a guy gets out of the second SUV and goes, "Hey," says my friend's name. He's okay. He's with us. The gates open up, and we're walking through the back corridor of this nightclub, which owned by one of the biggest drug dealers in Mexico, who's now dead.
Jeez.
So we're walking down the back corridor. It's all cavity blocks. It's getting more and more ominous, more and more scary, and more kind of like we're isolated, alone, and out of our depth in a country that we are not familiar with. And as we walk into his office, we're following him now, the main drug dealer down this corridor, who's come out to meet us and say hello, who never paid us in the end, which is understandable. Why would he when he doesn't have to? And as he's walking into his office, he tips on the wall, and we turn around, and it's an article from the biggest newspaper in Mexico saying most wanted man in Mexico. And he just smiles at us and go, "Anyway, lads, anyway, gents," whatever his thing was in Spanish, "what are you here for?" And my friend just goes, "Just to say hello and make friends." So he gave us bottle service in the club, and then a month later he was executed by another cartel.
But separate incident.
So nothing to do with us. But that's the kind of thing. It's very unpredictable.
Oh, you mean the
then.
guy, the host, the drug dealer? I thought your friend. Oh, yeah, he got executed.
Yeah, no, my
Yeah.
friend is still alive and well, and the man who was messing with drug dealing is gone. Another time, because I was a businessman that looked a little different, I stood out down in Mexico. So another time, the police down there tried to extort me, so they put me in jail underground in Mexico
Gosh.
for, along with one of my waiters at the time. And we had done nothing wrong, and we bought our way out because it was the only way that we would get out. And we hadn't done anything wrong, but they wanted our money.
Well,
and they were going to get it, so it was fantastic.
I know this is weird. We're doing podcasts here so much, but I'm just going to do a quick check on how to get a direct flight to Guadalajara.
It's a great spot.
It just sounds like exciting.
Well, it's
where should I stay?
It's
El
very
Chapo
exciting.
Inn? What do they have?
It's very exciting. But in general down there, it's so good down. Here's the reality. Mexico is so exciting and so nice down there that those two things that happened to me still made me want to live down there for a period of time because it was so good. Mexico is amazing. People are amazing. But when money is involved and business, people start, knocking on your door. And the reason we sold up was our business. The narcos were encroaching on our street, and there was just too much violence on our street. So we sold up, and I moved to Hollywood. Where
And
it's
then you
even
just
more
said,
dangerous.
okay, I've fought people in the jungle. No,
No fighting.
I've been evac'd out of mountains. I fought people in the jungle. I swam in cold water. Then I go to Mexico. I'm almost executed every other week. The narcos are in my business. Then I go, I know what I want to do. I want to go to Hollywood.
Well-
So then you end up in Southern California by way of Northern California. But you get out.
Yeah, so the brain wanted the stimulation, I guess, and the hardship. So I came to Hollywood to deal with a load of narcissists. It's even harder. That's the hardest thing you'll ever deal with in life.
But
is
then
just
you
be
said, okay,
surrounded
I'll
by
just do
narcissists.
something really easy. Stand-up comedy.
Yeah, well, here, look, it's a good business model.
Yeah.
And if you have a brain that jumps around a lot and you like high-octane sports.
Yeah, it focuses.
Yeah, and you can do it for years. And there's a chance that if you work really hard, that you have a business model that'll pay you
Yes.
into your retirement. And it's such a challenge. And I also knew that you guys were doing it and I had seen it. So I guess as a young, impressionable man, I thought, oh, that's an avenue that one could pursue in life.
Right. Yeah, and we did a lot of little clubs, and you opened for me once at a racetrack.
Oh, bro.
It's
It's like a sacrificial lamb out there.
Well, it was ridiculous. We were playing Del Mar or something, the racetrack,
in San
It's like a
Diego.
county fair, and Frank was around. I go, hey, you want to come down and open? And it was just the lights hadn't even come down, and 10,000 people were just walking in,
Yeah.
and they go, "Oh, your opening act's got to go on."
Yeah.
And it was a death trap. I felt bad. You had no chance.
But do you know? Thank you for the opportunity, to be honest. But yeah, you have to earn that right. I wasn't ready, so I went out and started. Dana, just before I walked out, goes, "Yeah, just trust the technology. Don't scream." I walked out. It took about 20 minutes to get out to the mic. The stage was so
It was
big.
huge. Everything is
When Dana finishes, there's fireworks and everything. But me at the front end of the comedy routine was basically just this kind of scared Irishman walking out. I got a few laughs, but mainly silence. People were just taking their seats and kind of sitting down.
But you were led into the fire. No human being, I don't care if it's Richard Pryor or whatever, can kill when the lights haven't come down and people are getting to their seats
No, dude,
and don't know who you are. So it wasn't your fault at all. You did great.
No, you know what? And all it was, man, was just more of. It's like if you look at art, if you look at life like an art project, which is like, hey, if you look at yourself like an art project, it was just like another way to suffer and figure out some stuff. So I look back at it fondly, but at the time I was like just rocked. I remember getting into the car because you always have these sweet drivers that are like the car's waiting, we get in, and then as we're pulling away, it's just super quiet, and you go, "Hey, how you doing?" And I go, "Good, yeah." And then I just kind of stared into the abyss for like 20 minutes.
Well, you held the line. I don't know if that's a military term, because the last thing you would want is your opening act, because the crowd is not ready and sucks, is to turn on the crowd.
Yeah.
Hey, you fuckers. That's all I want to hear before I go in. So you held the line and charmed them right to the end.
Yeah, and I think I got off on a laugh, but it might have been just like, it might have been a cheer for coming to the stage right now is Mr. Dana Carvey. And then, but I kind of took that in as that was for me.
Yeah. Well, but I thought, you did great.
Yeah,
I opened for bands, and I just bombed every time. Then I would cry all the way home on the 101. Later on, I go, I had no chance. They didn't know me. They were drunk and screaming at me. It wasn't I couldn't get into a pithy rhythm.
But are we, Dana? Are we smart or are we stupid? Because we do it on a regular basis. Put ourselves in harm's way for no reason when we could easily choose an easier path.
I don't know. I'll vote stupid. So it's getting a little late in the podcast.
Shall we call Larry?
Well, it's kind of funny because we have a final thing about Frank that he's going to Kilimanjaro.
So finish it and then.
Yeah, I guess
and then
so.
Larry.
Bang it out in a minute.
And then you could do some more.
Yeah.
And then you can do more stuff on the other side of Larry, like anything that's on your notepad.
Okay. Well, I think I got most of it. I don't know. Yeah, it wasn't my best.
Or maybe I'll ask you a question about something.
I don't know if I can do Black Lives Matterhorn. I just thought I'd do it and then see.
Oh, I think it's hilarious.
Or make another one.
Whatever, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
No, maybe after Larry, I'll ask you
Yeah, that's
a
fine.
question like any fan would want.
Oh,
to know.
sure. Okay, so Frank,
Yo.
so basically now you immigration in America has said that you have to sort of exit the country for a while.
Yeah, for no reason, not based on any history. It's just basically every 3 years you got to renew your visa.
Yeah.
It's my time to renew, and so I've scheduled it in a way that, it was my application was rejected. It cost me about
More pain,
which is great, but
You didn't find anybody you could marry.
no, not yet. But
you have that wife in Guatemala, right?
I've got
All,
nothing.
one of the Guadas.
Yeah, I got nothing really
And
going
a couple
on.
of kids.
Got nothing going on, but life's hurdles make you jump higher. That's my newest thesis. So
After just because you became an outstanding citizen of America, you did a 500-mile walk for charity called Rough Set, where you walked from San Francisco to L.A.
Yeah.
and camped out as if you were homeless,
Yeah.
and occasionally would find a place to do stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And you raised all this money. It blew up online.
Yeah.
You gave the money to the Los Angeles.
Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thousands of dollars.
Great organization. And
Yeah.
and then there was a TV show, and then COVID hit. So my life was about to change financially. I think I'm only just figuring out how close I got.
They were going to do a TV show about that?
Rough Set, it got picked up, by a company, and then they literally put it on their 2020 roster. 4 shows they were going to do, and they were going to produce it, and they were great, and they were really nice people. And then COVID hit in March, so
They can't revisit it?
I'm sure they will, but I have to resell it and kind of get them interested again.
But they also, because over the years you've done a lot of things, and I'll just bring it up because I can. But you also sort of connected with a charity group via the church and a friend where you went down to Mexico and Central America to help them. With a movie star.
Yeah, when I was down in Mexico, maybe 5-6 years ago, we were involved in feeding some immigrants who were coming up from Central America, and they would pass through on a train from in Guadalajara, and I got to know them, got to enjoy the company of, because when you see an immigrant who's willing to do that kind of thing, like, I admire the courage. I can't imagine being a 15-year-old doing 3,000 miles. Like, it's like, take the politics out of it, take whatever you think about jobs and all that. It's just like, oh my God, that 16-year-old is doing something that I wouldn't even.
It's like they're walking across the continental U.S. at age 16.
Yeah, insane, and way more dangerous.
Yeah,
way more dangerous.
Yeah,
and so I kind of had this admiration for immigrants, and so when I came up here, one of my friends heard of my interest, and then her church, Martin Sheen's local church. We're going down to Tijuana on a regular basis to bring school supplies. So I jumped on that opportunity and got to go down to Tijuana with Martin Sheen and get to see the whole situation at the border there in quite some detail. And once you've seen it in quite some detail, you realize that most people who have strong opinions have literally no understanding of what's going on at the border.
Because they haven't been there.
Yeah, and they've got like one level of analysis of what's going on and what the solution would be. And it's painful that they're the loudest people.
Yeah.
Because you're literally dealing with, human trafficking on a massive scale.
Well, that would be a clueless, opinionated guy.
Yeah.
Let's just let them do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Have you ever been down there? No.
Yeah. Well, I would just want everyone, to have an easier life. And if they're kids, I want them to have the easiest life. And if they're older and they get into the country, I kind of admire it. I think it's like courageous.
Yeah.
Is there need for checks and balances? Obviously, if you're a normal thinking human.
But isn't it ironic that you did this walk for the homeless? You go and feed people at the border. You're in Tijuana and elsewhere with Martin Sheen, an American icon.
Yeah.
And now the American immigration authorities say, we actually need you to scooch out of the country. I'm like, how many Americans would have to line up behind you in the good deed department?
Right.
Yeah.
Billions.
Well, there's certain criteria.
Ironic much?
Yeah. It's a tough one mentally, but what is it? I'm about 10 grand deep into my visa. I tried to do it. I've tried to do it legally.
That was your first mistake.
And
no, admirable though. But we could have.
And so
we could have greased some wheels.
Yeah. So now I got. And that's a joke, everybody. And so, I'll just put more money and time towards it, and I'll take the hit. But that's life, isn't it? It's literally, life is basically trying to move forward and everybody trying to tell you you're a moron and you're doing it the wrong way. And then eventually you emerge from the other side after everybody has given up, and you're just like, oh, look, it worked. How? Because I didn't give up and I didn't cry along the way. I just went forward.
You weren't Johnny Victim.
Yeah.
I would say the most comforting thing you can ever hear someone say about life is really, really fucking hard. Because then you're like, oh, okay. But if you're promised like it's all rainbows and whatever, then you're going to be, that's so hard.
Oh.
But if you just assume it's a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
With a lot of fun in between. Chris, comment?
Yeah. It's like levels.
Were you named after St. Francis?
Of Assisi? Yeah, I think so. Well, after my granddad. But
So, Frank, can we just finish with this? Because this is the fourth part of the story. Ireland, Liberia, Mexico. Well, the fourth part is also just all the stuff you did while you're here. Now you're going to depart for a time being. Hopefully you'll come back.
Yeah.
But now you have a new adventure where you're going to be part of a documentary crew on Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa. So just explain that briefly. Chris is now finally went 10.0.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So
you didn't go back to Ireland and work.
Dana, hey, look, to the listeners out there, I just realizing how scattered I am as a human and how much I'm obviously like walking ADHD, but it does keep life interesting, and I hope it's entertaining for the stuff.
But anyone could have ADHD. They could just want to go to Burger King or want to go to McDonald's. You're going, I'll conquer this continent. I'll fly this plane. I'll jump out of this if they have it.
All right. So here's
you're going
the brief. The brief on it is basically an athlete called Mandy Horvath has lost both of her legs in a terrible, terrible, terrible accident. Like literally, Horvath, Mandy Horvath. She's got to check it out. She's fundraising on GoFundMe. And what we're going to do, myself and a guy called Edward Drake, who is the director. I just happened to meet him. I was doing here's a name drop, some Bruce Willis movies.
Oh, the Willis cat.
Yeah.
You got the Sheen cat and the Willis cat. That's quite a resume, Irish. Okay, sorry. Dennis Miller came in the room for a second. Bye, Dennis.
Edward Drake he's this great writer, director. He's young and going for broke, and he's doing great stuff, and he's working with Bruce Willis. I happened to meet him on that set, got to know him, got to like him, and then I met Mandy Horvath through a friend called C. Glassman. Anyway, we're going up the side of the biggest mountain in Africa, I believe. It's called Mount Kilimanjaro. It's in Tanzania. We're flying out on the 6th of June. She's going to do it on her hands.
Oh my God.
So
So
no
she's
legs.
going
She's
to do
going
it
to
on
pull
her-
herself up. And it's like 19,000 feet, 20,000 feet?
19,500 feet. There's very little footage at the top because most of the cameramen are burnt out and there's so little oxygen at that level that we're going to try and pull it off and make it a documentary. It looks like we've got, I don't want to go into too much details, but it looks like there's a good chance it'll go out there and be out there and that the world will see it. And the story is so big and so motivational and so deserving of attention that I think we've got something that will really animate people to, say, God, I have no problems. What am I doing with my life? So,
Oh my gosh.
I'm thinking next, like a free diving, without oxygen off the Great Barrier Reef, 200 feet. You're going to have to work up to it. It'll be for charity. Anyway, just think about it after you conquer Mount Kilimanjaro.
yeah.
Christ's sakes, this kid's got more adventures than Adventureland,
Yeah.
which is renamed Not Much Happening Land out of the Disney World. Thanks, Dennis. See you later, Carvey. Okay.
Well, hopefully it goes well. And
Wow.
And while I'm over there, I'll apply for the visa and try to get back into America.
Wow.
All right. For everyone out there, Francis Cronin has told us between the two episodes, epic story. When you lay it out like that, it is pretty amazing, isn't it? Isn't it, Frank?
It's actually embarrassing because I just realized how scattered a life and how unfocused in one direction.
Well, I
it's
would
been.
say
It
a
wasn't-
free.
no,
I would just say
scattered.
Pretty like next step. You could have just been bored doing the same thing for 20
Right.
years.
I would
Well-
say freedom is what I'm getting from you. You go wherever you need to go.
Yeah. Well, I've low understanding of risk. I think.
Well,
Yeah. I enjoy basically to be stimulated and be happy. There has to be a lot going on, and so I distract myself in this manner. I think I've figured it out.
I
that way.
once, when I was 21 with a friend, we were in the high Sierra Nevadas, and we went up Crown Peak, and it was just sheer ice, and we just dug into it just with cutoffs and no shirts. We were just kids, and it went up. We could have just fallen many times.
Yeah.
So you are more reckless when you're young or naive, but we made it. Wow, that's a great story. Well, Francis Cronin, we want you to get back in America as soon as you can.
Yeah, as wild as all of that sounds, it's all pretty benevolent stuff, and I try not to hurt people in any way, shape, or form. So it does sound wild, and all those interactions are pretty intense. But it's mainly just because I'm interested in how people live. I like to be around people who are having adventures, and so.
Well, I think to go full circle about the price of consciousness and wanting to just be at peace in your mind, helping other people, getting outside of your problems and trying to help other people is another way to quiet that thing in the back of your head of judgment, and I should be doing this, and why didn't I write a novel, and I should be able to stand on my head by now.
Yeah,
I'm over 50. Why can't I do a handstand?
I can't either.
Well, it's the biggest secret on the planet. Is that it's easier to help somebody else than it is help yourself. You can see how someone needs to improve.
Yeah.
But like if you help other people, it actually feels so good if you pay attention and you're aware of when you help somebody how that feels. It's usually way better than when you get a win yourself. It's weird.
Well, you get in touch with suffering.
Absolutely.
When I was a little kid in stand-up in my 20s, it was like, oh, I killed, and I did this, I did that, and I did this. And then later on, you're at a show, and you see people coming by, and you can tell that someone has cancer or whatever, and they go, we really needed this tonight.
Yeah.
So then you kind of twist the whole thing, go like, oh, it never was about me. I'm just providing a service, because you cannot worry and laugh at the same time.
Yeah. And
So.
yeah, and you're only a point of awareness.
Hi, my name's self-congratulatory. I'm self-congratulatory. Also, another thing I realized.
Hey, but hey, look, if you're gonna do something, you may as well do something that makes other people smile a bit, right? Isn't that?
That's what I like, an efficient plumber. We have a smell. We have a smell
Salvador.
under the house. There's a crawl space. Right on. I love crawl spaces. I'm going in. What's your name? Rednecky, the redneck comedian. You do this part-time? Yeah. You heard my records? They ain't go good. So much. I want on that crawl space. I like finding rabbits and rats and beavers, and I'll slack them on the face. I'll find your stinker. All right. We're calling Larry Bubbles Brown right now with the joke of the week, one of our consistent things. So that was great, Francis. Enjoyed it.
Yay.
Hello.
Larry, we went through Frank Francis, Irish Frank's life, and it was a bigger life than we thought. He's still a very young man, but it was a lot of stuff in Africa and Ireland and Mexico. And then coming to L.A. and then going back to Mexico. That's why we're a little late calling you today. How are you?
Oh, Frank's lived more life in 25 years than I will in 150.
I thought you were 150, Larry.
I am, yeah.
Bump, bump, bump.
love you, dude.
I did a joke for decades. Remember this one, Larry? I don't have any jokes. I rarely write jokes, but whenever I would get on stage when I was young doing stand-up, I'd say, I'm 27, but I read at a 29-year-old level. And I kept doing that all the way into my 50s. I'm 51, but I read at a 55-year-old level. And it never didn't get a laugh. But I eventually put it aside because I didn't want to point out my age.
Yeah.
Turtlenecks are my friend, and bow ties. Let's put it that way. The neck decided... The neck decided to check out. The neck
Don't
said,
worry, we'll get that fractal laser and finish that neck off.
we're going to go in for a threaded neck lift during lunch. You and I will go to Beverly Hills. We'll shop a little bit. We'll get our threaded facelifts. Takes about, 35, 40 minutes, Chris? Yeah, and then we'll have a light lunch, a little glass of Chardonnay. You'll have a Diet Coke. Christ's sakes. Life gets good. It's like That Girl all over again, kept this time without the Marlo Thomas kitten.
Right?
So I've been doing Dennis lately. I don't know why. He snuck in the podcast. So Larry, one of these days we got to do a deeper dive into your life. Like, let's start from the beginning.
Well, I can't wait to hear about Frank. I know he's done so much, and I've done so little. I've been on the planet so long.
Well, my brother once said about a friend of ours, it took one day to know him and 20 years to believe it. So,
Well, I've got stories. Someday, if I've been hit by lightning, things like that. That might be fun to talk about.
Oh my gosh.
or like how when you were age 5 or 6 on the playground, you realize everyone's going to die and you had kind of a mini break for a while, a nervous breakdown.
Oh, yeah. I was first grade. I was in the recess, and I was at the slide. I looked up I saw these clouds going overhead. For some reason, I thought that reminded me we're all going to die. So I went down to the bottom of the slide. I turned in a fetal position under the slide, and I wouldn't come in. And the kids had to go in and get the teachers to come out and get me. It was really disturbing.
Well, I got depressed when the janitor had to come and throw the sand or peat moss on the vomit. Even then, I'm 6. This guy's in his late 40s, and this is his job. He's got a jumpsuit on, and he's putting the vomit stuff on the thing. Christ's sakes, got a name tag. I knew life could get grim at that point.
When you were
We saw it early on.
Grade school, remember when someone would throw up and the janitor had to come in? He mostly would clean up and had a kind of a cool job, probably listening to music. Everyone's gone, But once in a while, he had to come in with some sort of thing he'd put on the vomit.
And it upset you, or you remember it, where it
I
really sticks with you?
I don't know. I kind of a bit I did. But I do remember it. We had stuff like if you misbehave, you had to stand outside the classroom. So I'd just go out there and daydream like it was some punishment. They're in there. I'd look in the
Doing
room.
math.
They're all sound asleep. X plus Y equals. They never told us about math. They should have always said, this is how we got to the moon. What I'm teaching you is why there'll be rockets in outer space.
Yeah.
We all would have sat up, but they just started. Okay, the isosceles triangle is the base of the A plus B squared equals C squared. Who gives a fuck? And then they say, you swore, get outside. And I say, thank you, teach.
Yes.
But
Did you hate school like I did?
some of the best sleep I ever got. No.
Yeah, it felt like time slowed down when you were in school and accelerated on the weekends.
Did you ever do this, like drop your pencil and then pick it up so you could look under a girl's dress like in 5th grade? I did.
No,
You didn't drop the
wasn't
pencil?
that sharp.
Oh, shoot, I dropped my pencil. Kathy McGuire. Well, yeah, you just I'm sorry. Is that perverted? I'm 10. Nothing happened.
Although that's where I broke into comedy in school. Actually, I was too shy to perform, so I used to write these humor sheets, and I'd take pictures with captions on them, and people would just pass them around the lunchrooms. That was my first entry
How
into
old were
comedy,
you?
I guess. That was when I junior high.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
They got pretty popular too, so that was kind of fun.
that's hip. When did you
Yeah.
you're 6 feet tall. Were you just like a tall kid as a kid, or did you grow later?
I was a 24-inch baby, which I think is supposedly really long, but
Most of us know our length at birth. I was 7.5. I was a preemie. What? How do you know your length at birth? What was
my
your
mother
shoe
told me it
size?
must have hurt because she always reminded me of that. You were 24 inches long.
Oh my God.
It's like she's catching a fish or something. This is an 8-pound, 24-ounce baby. Yeah.
2
Well,
feet long, Larry? Oh my gosh.
I was just, I mean, when I entered high school, I was 90 pounds, 5 foot tall. I looked like a fetus with shoes. That's one of my oldest jokes.
That worked.
Well,
But 90 pounds, that was a perfect to do running. That's a great build to do running.
I went out for D basketball then. Our center was 5'2". He controlled the paint. I was a fast guard, but then he controlled the paint at 5'2". He was the monster in the center. Big guy, 5'2". Could have been 5'3". No, we didn't.
Carvey is in the paint more than Rembrandt.
You're painting more pictures than Ron Howard. I don't know, whatever. I'm just throwing names out. So, Larry, we've been here for most of the day. So can you give us your joke of the week, and who would you like to have introduced you this week?
Well, since it's Frank's, why don't we have Frank introduce the joke of the week?
Larry Bubbles Brown with the joke of the week, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Larry Bubbles Brown with the joke of the week.
Thank you, Frank. I'm a stay-at-home kind of guy, what you might call a court-ordered ankle monitor.
Nice.
Was that funny? I don't know.
That was awesome.
I think it's funny. Do you think this guy wrote 2 jokes about how Disney is woke and they're changing their rides? So one of their main rides is now going to be called Black Lives Matter Horn. Tomorrowland is now called Dystopian Hell. In dystopian hell, the temperature will always be 131 degrees. Go into the plastic punishment room and get your suit on. So anyway, those are my jokes. But we should get out of here, Larry. You've been awesome. Again, that was a great joke.
Okay, I can't wait to hear the show.
Yeah, Frank has an amazing story. I really think it needs to be. We'll do another interview when you come back. He's going to Africa to climb a mountain to help a woman with no legs. It's just another day in the life of Francis Cronin.
He's like a superhero.
I enjoy it. It's not. I'm not that good. I just enjoy it. It's something stimulating to do, isn't it? You may as well do something.
Well, I've heard it. Well, Tanzania is stunning, and that mountain is stunning, and the nature and wildlife you're going to see is, I guess, otherworldly.
Yeah, the Serengeti's right there. I know you love elephants, Larry. I'm going to see an elephant
do.
up close.
Smartest
Well,
things.
we gotta save them.
Yeah, yeah.
All for that.
Maybe that's me and you next year, dude. We can go to Kilimanjaro and,
Let's do it. We'll kill some poachers.
climb it on some elephants.
Yeah, you open up a little comedy hut on the savannah, do a cute chant to the locals, and call it a day.
What was the John Wayne movie where he was in Hatari?
Atari and with red buttons. Remember he'd ride on the front of the thing and try to catch rhinoceroses for no reason? Well, let's go get a rhino, Pappy. But why, Duke? They're nice in the nature. Well, I said let's corral them.
I need a rhino horn.
Now strap me to the front of this pickup truck and give me a net. I'm hunting rhinos. Yeah, ha, ha, ha. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, Larry, thank you so much. I'm going to go get
thank
packed in
you.
ice, which is my normal activity after these adventures. And Francis Cronin, my guest, Chris Rios, and Dex Carvey.
On the levers.
On the levers. So this has been Fantastic with Dan and Florfo. Peace out, everybody.